Back in 2008, a well-known psychic wrote about a global pandemic that would take the world by storm. For over a decade, her prediction was mostly ignored until it seemed to come true with an unnerving bullseye. She talked about a severe, pneumonia-like illness that would spread across the entire globe around the year 2020. But here's what most people don't know. Many of her devoted followers believe the 2020 pandemic was just a warm-up, a physical dress rehearsal for the real crisis. Now, a mysterious warning is bubbling to the surface. You won't find it in a single line of text. Instead, it's an interpretation of her life's work. It speaks of a silent crisis of the soul, supposedly tied to the year 2026. And if you look around, you might just feel that the signs are already starting to show. It was just one paragraph tucked away in her 2008 book, End of Days, that made Sylvia Browne a global household name again, 7 years after her death. The passage read, "In around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments." When COVID-19 hit, that prediction went viral. Kim Kardashian shared it. It was all over the news, and for millions, it felt like undeniable proof of her abilities. How could she have known something so specific? That single, eerily resonant prediction gave her a new, posthumous credibility, sending people digging through her books for what else she might have seen. However, let's look at this with both eyes open. Skeptics were quick to point out that the prediction was far from a perfect match. They argued the description was generic and sounded more like the 2003 SARS epidemic. Plus, she claimed the illness will suddenly vanish as quickly as it arrived, which anyone who lived through the long haul of COVID-19 knows didn't happen. Her prediction also mentioned it would reappear 10 years later before disappearing completely. Critics also highlight her much larger body of work, thousands of predictions. If you make enough forecasts, a few are bound to look like hits just by pure chance. And her track record is complicated. Extensive research into her televised predictions on missing persons cases found she was completely wrong in every single case where the outcome was later confirmed. She infamously told the mother of kidnapping victim Amanda Berry that her daughter was dead. Berry was found alive almost a decade later, after her mother had already passed away, believing her daughter was gone. This history doesn't erase the strange feeling her 2020 passage evokes, but it adds a lot of necessary context. It makes us ask, was this a true psychic vision, or was it a lucky guess in a career filled with many, many misses? Her real legacy might not be in literal predictions, but in the powerful feelings they stir up. And that's exactly where the mystery of 2026 begins. So here's the core of the mystery. If you comb through End of Days or any of Sylvia Browne's 40-plus books, you won't find a single sentence that says, in 2026, there will be a silent crisis of the soul. So where is this coming from? It's not a direct quote, it's an interpretation, a theory that followers are piecing together from the themes of her broader spiritual warnings. They believe the 2020 pandemic was a physical trial that attacked our bodies. But they think her ultimate warning wasn't about a disease of the lungs, but a silent crisis of the soul, which they now believe is set to peak around 2026. This silent crisis is described as a kind of spiritual pandemic, a slow, creeping emptiness in a world that's more connected than ever, yet feels incredibly isolating. It's the burnout that comes from constant noise, the fire hose of information, and the pressure of a digital world that's always on. Browne often wrote about what she termed the anxiety age, a time defined by a loss of faith, a disconnect from a sense of purpose, and a hollowness that no amount of material success can fix. This spiritual collapse, as her followers interpret it, isn't a single event. It's the gradual decay of human connection. It's the rise of what she called the true Antichrist. Apathy, the force that makes us mindlessly scroll past tragedy, numb ourselves to the pain of others, and swap genuine human contact for digital facsimiles. She warned of a time when technology, despite all its marvels, would start to isolate us, trapping us in echo chambers that amplify division and anger. She talked about a world full of people who feel deeply alone, even when in a crowd. This isn't a prophecy about a war or a natural disaster, it's about an inner collapse. The terrifying idea of a world full of people who've forgotten how to connect with their own spirit. If you've made it this far, maybe you're already feeling it. That low-grade hum that something just feels off. The idea of a silent crisis hits so hard today because it puts a name to a collective anxiety we can already feel in the air. Just look at the world around you. We're living in an age of jaw-dropping division, where social and political gaps feel like they're getting wider every day. We perform our lives through screens, showing off idealized versions of ourselves while privately battling loneliness and feeling like we don't measure up. Mental health challenges are skyrocketing as people wrestle with a sense of meaninglessness in a world that seems to only reward superficial wins. This is the fertile ground where the silent crisis is said to be growing. It's that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by the 24/7 news cycle, battered by one crisis after another with no power to do anything about it. It's the quiet despair of watching society's fabric seem to unravel, seeing trust in our institutions evaporate, and feeling our shared values erode. Browne's general writings, not dated prophecies, but thematic warnings, spoke of this spiritual vacuum. She believed humanity was getting dangerously sidetracked, trading deep spiritual truth for fleeting, empty distractions. The 2026 interpretation argues that this is the year when the bill for that trade-off comes due. It's a tipping point, where the internal emptiness starts to bubble over into external chaos on a scale we haven't seen before. The silent crisis stops being silent. Not with a bang, but with the deafening quiet of a billion souls who've lost their signal. The crisis isn't coming for us. It's already inside us. But this is the most important part of the message, the twist that turns the story from one of fear into one of incredible hope. According to those who interpret her work, this crisis was never meant to be a death sentence. It's a wake-up call, a necessary, if painful, course correction for all of us. In her view of the world, the universe always seeks balance. When humanity leans too far into materialism, division, and apathy, a balancing force has to show up. The silent crisis of the soul is that force. It's designed to be so uncomfortable, so hollow, that it forces us to finally stop, look inward, and ask the big questions we've been avoiding. What is my purpose? What connects me to other people? What does it even mean to be human? So this prophecy isn't a prediction of our end, but an invitation to a new beginning. It's a spiritual test. The 2020 pandemic tested our bodies and our systems. The crisis of 2026, as it's understood, is meant to test our spirit. It's a challenge for our hearts and our minds. The solution, Browne's writings suggest, isn't in politics or new tech, but in a return to ourselves, It's about rediscovering our own spiritual center, rebuilding real communities, and choosing empathy over apathy again and again. That feeling of fear you might get from hearing this warning, that's your teacher. The anxiety is the alarm clock telling you it's time to wake up. This period isn't supposed to break us, but to break us open, to shatter the illusions we've been living with so that something more real and more resilient can grow in their place. In short, it's a collective dark night of the soul, a required journey through the shadow to find the light. So, what are we supposed to make of all this? Sylvia Browne's 2020 prediction, with all its flaws and controversies, did one thing. It got us to listen. But the warning for 2026, pieced together by her followers, is a much deeper and more personal challenge. It suggests the physical test of the pandemic was just the opening act for the spiritual test that's coming. It feels like a call to look past the shallow distractions of our age and start doing the deeper work of healing our inner worlds. It's an invitation to strengthen our spiritual foundations, reconnect with the people around us, and face whatever comes next, not with fear, but with open eyes. When you look at the world today, at the division, the anxiety, the deep spiritual hunger, can you see the early signs she warned about? Maybe the prophecy isn't just about the future, but a reflection of our present and a roadmap for how we can navigate it. If this message resonated with you, subscribe for more explorations into what might be coming. The road ahead is uncertain, but the more aware we are, the better we can walk it together. Share this with others who you think need to hear it, because in a time of silent crisis, the most powerful thing we have is a shared voice.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.